So today we're going to go through how we can render a 360 light using the Light Passes AOV render tool. So just opening up our scene here, we have a simple sunset scene with a guy riding his bike. And if we turn off all of our lights but our skylight, you'll see that we don't have any information coming from our skylight. There's no environment light data. It's because we have this set to captured scene. And if you want to do a real-time capture, you would need all this other stuff. But we want to be able to get some nice highlights in here, but we're not going to be able to. And if we click on one of the ones I have here, it doesn't really match the scene that I'm using. So a way to do this is just to turn off your skylight. So we'll turn on just the lights that affect our environment. And we're going to go ahead and duplicate the sequence. And we'll just name this scene underscore HDRI. And let's clear all this. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the environment light we're getting with the sky and sun that we get from our directional light, our sky atmosphere, and our volumetric cloud, and our height field fog. And we're going to use that to get an HDRI of the scene that we're in. So all of this additional light is going to come in and become our fill light. So I'm going to go into this scene. And we're going to select our camera. And on the camera, I'm just going to set this film back to just a 35, a square film back. And I'm going to pull in right here. And then I'm going to also just despawn our character. So we just have the environment. So what I'm going to do is up here, this is in the new version, version 3.3. And we're going to click the panoramic button. And what this is going to do is it's going to set up a panoramic render. So we'll go ahead and select our HDRI scene. You can see we have panoramic here. And we're going to render a 2K lat long panoramic image. And we'll just set our output path. HDRI. So I've already done this. I'm just going to go version 2. And we want to set our compression to a lossless compression. And down here, we'll see our panoramic settings. I'm just going to keep them at the default 8400 and make sure this allocate history per pane is on. Another thing you want to make sure is on when you're doing panoramic renders is going to your project settings and make sure enable alpha support in post-processing is set to linear color space only. So you can see I have disable crypto and disable tech passes already disabled. We don't need the emissive for this one because we have no emissive actors in here. And I'm just going to set the samples to 8 and 8 for now. You can adjust this for however you need, and I want to make sure I'm overriding the anti-aliasing on this one. I have my color settings, and I'm rendering this out in ACES CG color space. And now that that's all set, I have my file name format, panoramic at the end. I'm going to hit render. One thing to notice that I didn't show before we hit render is that when you hit the panoramic render preset, you're going to see that it activates use custom playback range and start frame of 0 and end frame of 1 so that you're only rendering one frame. If you want to reset these back to normal, you just clear your render preset as you normally would. Okay, so I brought my file in Nuke here. You can do this in Photoshop, Fusion, and anything else as well. And you'll see that it's pretty dark. So what we're going to do is we want to create a exponential exposure on this image in order to get it to work how we want to in Unreal. This will also work in any offline render engine as well. So I'm just going to change this to stops, and I'm going to move this up to 1. and create another one. And we're going to go 2 and create another one. We're going to go 3. And next one is going to be our control. So you can see we now have good exponential exposure coming from the HDRI. And I'm just going to grade this a little bit, just so that I can get completely what I want. And then I'm just going to write this out. And you just want to make sure that you have .hdr as your extension. So hit save, and you can hit render. Okay, so back in Unreal, I've created an HDR folder in my sequences folder, and I've dropped in our HDR image, and it comes in as a texture cube. So now we can turn off all of our other lights here and go into our skylight. And instead of having this SLS captured scene or a different HDR that we got online, we can just bring in our custom one here. And as you can see, it's giving us a little bit more the dark blue values and orange values that I wanted when I rendered my image. Okay, so I've adjusted my scene here, and now I'm just going to go back into my presets. I'm just going to drag my render preset in here and have everything set up. And for this render, I only want to split out my environment pass. I don't want to split out any other lights. I want to keep those how they are and adjust them together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to this debug section. I haven't set up any of my light tag yet, and I'm going to use this new auto light tags feature. This will work for every light but your skylight. So if you hit this and we go look, our directional light now has a directional light. Our rec lights that are helping our directional light have a rec light tag. It's just our skylight. We're just going to go ahead, sky, and then over here in our AOVs, we're going to go to override light group because I just want to render the skylight. So I want to render a beauty and just a skylight. So I think I have everything else set up. Sure, I don't have that custom playback range on. And I'm just going to go ahead and render this out. Now that we're done rendering, we can start to bring in our passes. So we have our primary here. Because we only wanted to render our skylight, you can see it here with the volumetric fog included in the background. And we're just going to drop down a merge. And it's going to be in B going into the primary, A going into the skylight. And we're going to use a from operation. So the reason why we can do this, you can see it takes our skylight out. And the reason why we can do this is because these luminance values are just data. All of these, as you can see kind of down there, they're just 0 to 1 data. So we can tell, Nuke can tell our primary that we're removing the lighting data from this, and then we're going to use another merge, A over B function, and the B is going to go into our first from merge, and the A is going to go back into the skylight. And now we can just plus operation, and we have our skylight back. And then we can adjust skylight by just dropping a multiply or a color correct or a grade node here. And adjust. Okay, and here we go. We have our final image here. As you see, these clouds, VDBs right here. I'll leave a link in the description below. You can get them for free on my personal website. And we just added those in to create a little bit more depth. And this is our final image with our custom HDRI made with Unreal Engine and the Light Passes AOV widget.